Yeah, probably. What day is that?
It's a Tuesday.
I know how to do it,
Is
but
that
I
the
get
same night as
separate
it?
night.
Don't care to do it.
Well, guys, I got 6 o'clock on my watch. We'll get started. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, number 3, approve agenda.
Any changes to the agenda or as printed?
As printed, as far as I know.
I would make the motion to approve the agenda as printed.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Approve minutes of the December meetings.
Look good to me. I'll make a motion, we approve the minutes of the December meetings.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Public input.
Okay, I have public input. My name is Vickie Larsen. I've given you, handed out, one, it had to do with the Office of Hearing Examiners, maybe a little more professionalism instead of using letterhead for all 3 copies. I have questions. Where's the street maintenance fee money not used for chip seal in 2018? How much chip seal will the residents get next year for their 2 years worth of fees? Where is the flow detail on the donation received by the city of Alcester from the Canton Barn fundraiser for the benefit of the victims of Alcester nursing home crash? I only saw one. I was told it was $500 donation channeled through the city, and I only saw where a $100 outgoing check was cut. It doesn't mean there wasn't one, I just didn't see it. What is the outcome of the curb vandalization on Anderson Street along the North Johnson property? Has that repair of the curb been effected and paid for by those who ripped out the curb? The curb, the round part of the curb has been taken out, chewed up, so that I presume RVs can be put up on the property. Problem is, when you take that rounded curb out, the water gets in behind, goes down underneath, and undermines the street, which we all get to pay for a second time. So, anybody up for?
And for your information, that's not the Johnson property, lady.
It's Mrs. Larsen, and I would prefer some respect, sir.
Well then, start with you.
I did.
You refer to it as Johnson property, it's not. Get your facts straight.
It was until you sold off to, I'm not sure who it was.
I never sold anything.
The court records show it.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, it does.
I
So,
bought separately.
how much of the chip seal, where did the money go that was collected? I think it was somewhere around $37,000.
That is correct.
Where's that at?
It's in a special account.
Okay. Will that 37 plus another 37 go into 2 shots of chip seal in 2019?
That is correct.
Okay.
We discussed that before. We're actually going to get more bang for our buck accidentally, but
Okay. I've had people ask me, so now I have an answer. In answer to the barn fundraiser, am I correct in the $500 donation that was floated through the city? And was there just one check of $100 cut to the, I can't think of the gal that did the,
Rehab,
yeah.
or, I will confirm that with Wanda, but I don't even know that, the city even received into the general fund. I think the check just went directly to the victim's family.
Okay, I only saw one check, and that was to the activities director's family.
Yes, and that's what, the city did not write a check. The check was given to us and we gave it directly to where it was supposed to go.
Okay, was there a reason why it didn't appear in the paper as the city had received this to facilitate the dispersal?
Because I didn't put it in our bank account. I just gave the check, hand delivered the check back to the nursing home.
Okay, so what was the $100 for that the city actually wrote a check for?
That was a donation that the police department wanted to make to the family.
Okay, okay,
That had nothing to do with the Canton barn.
okay. I had seen an article where it was stated that, oh wait, a newspaper article. And what is the outcome? Is a curb going to be fixed on Anderson Street? Or is it gonna be just left?
That is still undecided at this time.
Okay. Do we know who took that out?
I do not.
Don't know.
Okay. Okay, that's all I have.
Is there any other public input? Okay, we'll move on
Just
to,
1 second. What was the issue with this again? I'm not sure I caught what you were.
Professional, notifications and stuff. Usually letterhead costs more. And why are we running page 2 and page 3 on letterhead? I know it's kind of nitpicky, but, you know, if the city wants to present a professional, at least professional outlook, so.
okay, legal updates, personnel policy manual.
So I owe the city a bit of an apology. I have been incredibly busy over the holiday season. I have gotten through about 3/4 of this. The personnel policy manual, I have not gotten through the police manual yet. I think we're at 90% from what I've read. This is very well written. It's good. A couple of the spots that Pat had highlighted, the sexual harassment policy, I'm going to suggest some language as to how we do reporting and kind of what everybody's responsibilities are. I've looked at Beersford's and Canton's manuals, and they're a little clearer than section 2.2 of page 9, which is, you know, it's good, but I think we could make it a little better. So that's one section I was looking at changing, and then another one, 2.11, political activity. I think some of the language in there is fairly restrictive as it's currently written, and probably too restrictive. Pat had asked me if it should go away, and I think she's right, probably a lot of it should or be changed. But we just want to make sure that everybody knows they can exercise their rights as citizens, but they just need to understand when they're speaking on behalf of the city by airing their own personal opinions, which they're certainly free to do. So as it relates to the new draft policy manual, everything looks pretty good. There's a couple of minor changes that I will have to Pat very soon, and other than that, I think you guys should be able to adopt it at the next meeting.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, Sam.
That was just the regular personnel. That wasn't.
Yes, the police manual I have not gotten through, and I hope to here in the, but my intention is to have both of them, all suggested changes to the city so that you could make the changes and adopt them by the February meeting, is the intent.
Okay, thank you, Sam. Number 7, 2019 retainer agreement. If you got an agreement
I
here.
guess
Yeah, there's some right there.
I guess I can pitch this to you guys as well if you'd like. It's the exact same agreement that you entered into for 2018. My fee is still $125. Mr. Freeberg's fee is still $150. You're getting most of your city attorney work from me. And that is the only change that was made that was substantive, was just the year that it covers.
I would make it a motion to approve the 2019 retainer agreement with Freeberg and Nilsson, of Nilsson Ask.
I would second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Have you asked for a raise? Were you firm?
Me personally?
Yeah.
No, I get paid in loose change and peanuts, which is fine. So.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Official newspaper. Gordon Richard is now, let me get this right, you're writing articles for the paper, a reporter. You're a
Right,
reporter?
writer/reporter.
Okay. Anyway, around the table, that's Linda, Melissa, David, Lance, Tom, Darla, Dan, and Sam, and Pat, and you know
Yes.
Jeff. Okay. Yeah, Gordon introduced himself to me the other day and had a little interview with him. You wanna tell us what you do, what's
Sure.
going on?
I'm Gordon Richard. My wife and I moved here about 5 months ago from Dolan, South Dakota, to be closer to our oldest daughter and grandchild. Her grandchildren live out just west of town here. My background is healthcare, Christian education ministry. In my most recent position, I was a veteran service officer at Spink County, half-time position. I've done a lot of writing over the years. I've been an editor. I haven't been a reporter, so I'm kind of new at that part of it. But the Allison and Shane, Allison and Shane, emphasis on is for me to be out in the community, doing stories, doing articles. I won't be laying out the paper and that sort of thing. They'll continue to do that. Shane has, I think, gone to a different employment, but will certainly be intimately involved in the paper. And of course, Allison is kind of the spearhead of the 5 papers that they have. And again, my 14 hours a week, I think it's less than a quarter, is going to be spent, going around the community and talking to people and trying to do a news report each week in the newspaper.
Have some local interest stuff in the paper.
Yes, yeah. And in Alcester and Hudson, I'm going over to Hudson Thursday night to see the city officers there. And yeah, very much, I'm hoping to get this artist in here this week and talk to her about this art. And you have a gallery here now. And that sort of thing. I did interview the mayor last week and the 2 city workers here this week, and I want to get to the chief here before too long.
Is the email address for submitting things?
Yes, everything's the same. Phone's the same, everything's the same.
And he will have office hours.
Yes, Monday, Thursday, and Friday from 9 to 1. And I think, I guess that's not in the paper. Well, it was in, when my picture was in the paper. They may run, a little ad saying when my office hours are.
Okay, thank you, Gordon.
Thank you.
Okay, we need a motion to approve the Alcester Hudson as official newspaper for Alcester during 2019.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Barbara, was that you?
Yeah.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Motion to approve Premier Bank as official bank for Alcester during 2019.
I would move that we approve Premier Bank as the official bank for Alcester during 2019.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Ordinance changes regarding tax. Discussion.
We put the same information in that we had last month in your packet again,
I have, Mr. Mayor, if I may, I have reached out to the lady, the chief and the finance officer and I have been emailing with. Reached out to her in December, I have not heard back from her yet, but my concerns with the proposed agreement are still kind of the same that they were before. And one part it talks about only handling domestic impounding, and that they're gonna be the animal control officers for the city, which is not what I think you want. And so I reached out to her and asked, we'd like to talk about some of the terms of the contract. She does get back to us, but she runs the entire Humane Society. My understanding is they do this service for a couple other towns, so it takes her a little longer than I would like and probably you all would like, but I don't think we can do much in the way of contracting with them until we get something that says they're gonna take X number of feral cats and they'll either come and get them or we'll bring them up. And in order to do that, I need to speak with her, and she just hasn't gotten back to me, so.
Okay.
My question would be, can we do this without an actual operations agreement and just say, we would just like to have an Alcester cat population management plan? In other words, enact basically the first page, but not all the rest of this. So basically all we're saying is, hey, if we trap them, and we trap them humanely, and we bring them to you, will you take care of them for us? That's all we're asking. It's a yes or no question. If the answer is yes, you got yourself a deal. There's no contract, there's no nothing, we just, or maybe there has to be, I don't know.
I don't think there's anything stopping us right now if we were to go find a stray cat from taking it in, the Humane Society taking it. What I think we're gonna run into, and which is why we talked about contracting with them, is probably the volume. And they can and will, there are ways they can and will bill you for spay, neuter, and vaccinating them and those types of things, which is, my thought is that it would be better to have something in writing in place so that we all understand what we're doing, so that we don't wind up vaccinating 50 cats at a cost to the city and spaying and neutering them when, if they're feral, which, you saw from the information, they typically will get rid of because they're diseased and those types of things, so.
Right.
I'm just kind of paranoid in the sense that if it's not written down, we don't have an agreement, and then we get billed for stuff that there's nothing saying that we couldn't, I just think that is an open-ended relationship we have.
Could be dangerous, business-wise. Obviously, we can't do.
Are they going to determine whether they're feral or whether they need to be spayed or neutered, or is that
Well-
anything we take up to them that doesn't have a collar? Is it gonna be the $10 fee and?
That was my understanding, is that there was a limit at 10 per time, and that it was kind of assumed that they were feral, and then the society does with them what they will. I think that the society, my understanding from the conversations with her though, is that they will do an individual assessment. Like if we brought a feral cat with one eye and 3 legs and a brand new kitten, they may take the brand new kitten and decide that's something that they can vaccinate and home, vice the feral cat's got worms and whatnot. It's, they may end its life humanely. But so I think on some level they're going to make the call. But that's one of the things
I think
I'd
they
like
would
to
do
find
that
out.
even if Fluffy had a collar. If Fluffy had an accident with a car or something and was in pretty poor shape, I think it would be euthanized. I mean, they would make that call. That's the Humane Society's job, or at least part of it.
And that's included in that $10
Well,
fee.
I would certainly assume so, but that's a good reason. I mean, right there's a good reason to have a contract or an agreement.
Yeah, I guess I don't think we're interested, at least I'm not interested in the city paying them $43 an hour to come down and
Yeah.
No.
do this for us.
Right. You guys are the people in charge, but when I was thinking about what I would want to do if I was on the council, that's exactly what I thought. I don't know that Alcester needs to pay for that.
Well, for us to pay labor to transport a handful of cats to Sioux Falls occasionally, and plus pay $10 a piece to get rid of them. We're gonna have 2 hours of Lonnie's labor, 100 miles of driving.
Did you know that was gonna be your job?
That wasn't the agreement.
Dale takes samples of.
Yeah, let's put it on there. Well, I don't care whose labor it is, 2 hours labor and 100 miles worth of mileage, that's,
Yeah.
I still think we could do something like every spring, every fall, do a kitty roundup. don't think it needs to be,
Well, I guess I'm thinking this is gonna be a diminishing problem.
I would hope so.
Yeah.
I think so.
We have 5 cages, we decide what day we're gonna take them up, and then the day before, or the night before, we put out the cages,
And then 2 weeks or 2 months, whatever, later, we do it again, and we do it again, and eventually those 5 cages are empty. Because they're either A, smart enough, in which case maybe they're not feral anymore, or whatever, or they're gone.
so, Mr. Jensen, you're thinking that we should probably wait until we get a better handle on this.
Right, and when I see the agenda item, it says that we're gonna change our ordinance regarding cats, and so I don't think that if you adopted this, you'd be adopting an ordinance. I think you'd be entering into a contract with them as is, and I don't know that you wanna do that.
The other part of that though is, do we want to register cats? like we
Right.
register dogs?
Right. I mean, I think those are kind of,
Separate.
they're independent. You don't need to do one to do the other, and the input that I recall from the folks at the last meeting, it sounds like at least some cat owners want it. And I think that, you know, it gives the city some measure of protection, saying you've got rules that you have to register cats under, and if you didn't do that and you grabbed the wrong cat, that kind of covers this a little bit.
Will the fee for that be used to offset the cost of transporting or taking these, you know,
Well,
taking these to the,
It certainly could, but the bigger obstacle will be how we know who has the cats.
Right.
That's the beautiful part about registering. The individuals that do take it upon themselves to register, Little Fluffy will have a, I mean, I know my vet used to have they had their own ID card. They had a picture and everything, so you could say, that sure looks like Little Fluffy, so we better contact Dave and say, are you missing a cat? Because we know you've already registered your cat, you know, there's some labor involved there too, so. I don't know, I think that $10 also, I mean, eventually, if enough people pay the amount, could buy traps, can do all kinds of things to help deal with cat-related issues.
I have no idea how much revenue it would generate. I know that the dogs in town is about $1,500 a year. But, I don't have a feel for how many cat owners we have and how many cats. And then, you're just relying on people to be honest if they really have them.
I'd say my block would bring me $20.
And that really won't do anything to help the feral cat problem.
Well, it will if they, because part of the stipulation of having the pet is that you have to get it spayed or neutered. So I mean, at least if you see a feral, like, I mean, obviously, Jeff, I know you're not gonna run around
Lifting
catching
cages
cats,
to check.
but it would give you grounds to do that. Like if people were not registering their cats, one gets away, you see the cat running around town, or whoever, obviously now it's Lonnie, I guess, I don't know, but whoever is in charge of doing this would have grounds to say, you know, that cat doesn't have a tag, it's not registered, it's feral. If you wanna say otherwise, come pay your fee.
And get it vaccinated.
And get it vaccinated, get it spayed, get it neutered, do what you're supposed to do.
I don't know the cost to put in a chip in a cat, but, one of our cats is chipped. And I don't know what to take to read a chip in a cat.
The vet, but then the problem is when we have done one dog that way, the chip that was in the dog was not readable from the vet, so it was a different company. So it doesn't always work, but it is a nice idea.
And we've had it too where the dog is chipped, it gets red, but it was a previous owner. So we call the owner who it was chipped under and they're like, oh, I don't have that dog anymore.
Well, I think that if there were, people were, if all the citizens would be let know that we would be picking up feral cats, and that they need to register their cat, and there's a $10 fee to register it, and if their cat is outside and happens to get caught in the thing, they may lose their cat, or maybe more of them would come and get their cat registered.
There would be some incentive there.
Yep.
I think that, and I don't know what's right either, but the biggest thing is when they do register the dog's pet, they're supposed to have it vaccinated.
Mhm.
And so,
Right.
any way we look at that, more of the animals in town are being vaccinated.
Right.
You know, if we look at bites and stuff, it's just safer.
The person that would have to haul, say, 10 cats up to Sioux Falls from here with that howling, oh, I feel sorry for them. Yeah,
Well,
Shouldn't,
I've done 1,500 miles with a cat howling the entire time, so I'm pretty much immune.
well,
You need somebody.
driving mine over to the vet and back, he thinks he's dying all the way. As soon as he gets home, he's perfectly fine, but he don't like riding in the car.
shouldn't we actually have some type of ordinance drafted before we consider making any kind of a motion though?
Well, I put that in there, I left it blank because if you want Sam to begin to draft the verbiage for cats.
Well, I think we need to get the language squared away to where we know exactly what we're talking about, how much the fee is gonna be, the whole bit before we, make any motion to, adopt this or whatever.
I agree. I think though, I mean, I'm already all in favor of saying that we need to do this. We've had a number of people from the public come in. I would say, Sam, work on it for us, please,
Okay. And
and then we'll deal with it when it comes back.
I just feel like we're kind of talking about two things. You want me to renegotiate what I think needs to be in this proposed cat management plan contract? And do you want me to also separately draft an ordinance that basically mirrors what we have for dogs right now, but for cats?
Yeah.
I want those two things.
Yeah,
Would be
please.
wonderful.
Yeah, okay. All right. Ordinance change regarding appointed officers.
That also is in your packet. Again, it's just the same copy that we had last month, but, it was tabled until January. And the comments from January would determine which positions are appointed and the mayor appoints. Determine the verbiage needed to terminate or unhire employees, and are the employees at will or under contract.
And this ordinance in front of us here is the way it will read in the future, correct?
Yes, unless you want any changes to that. That was Sam's draft.
Highlighted sections where you made modifications.
Yes.
Can you read our notes again from last time, please?
Determine which positions are appointed. The mayor appoints or fires at will. The city can determine which officers should be appointed. Need verbiage on how to terminate or unhire employees. And are the employees at will or under contract?
So have we decided how we terminate? Is it the same process? Is it the mayor says they're gone, or do we all have to vote on it, or?
So, I'm gonna just run you all through a couple of things, okay? So under statute, an appointive officer, the city can act, or the mayor can axe you, just period. And there's that case I think we talked about last time where, the lady had been employed there for a number of years. You have an employment agreement for me that covers me for a year. And I don't know of any city that's actually fired their city attorney with a contract, but I will go ahead and tell you, I think that if the mayor wanted to fire me tomorrow, he could probably do that, even though you've just entered into that agreement. The state statute and then anything in your ordinances and anything in your policy manual will determine how a non-appointed person could be fired, for example, Chief Christie. So if there is a infraction of our personnel policy, you guys have the entire spectrum of an informal disciplinary discussion to firing him for cause, right? That's laid out in your policies. So I say that to tell you in terms of whether or not you adopt this ordinance, you either already have in place policies that determine hire or fire or how people are contracted, or you will with the adoption of the new policy manual. You'd be changing some of those. So if you want to hold off on determining some of those things, you can, but the point I'm trying to make to you is you have ways to get rid of, in section 2, the finance officer, chief of police, street superintendent, water superintendent, you have ways to get rid of those people now that are available to you. And if you adopt a new policy manual wherein you change some of those disciplinary procedures, you'll have new and different ways of doing it. But you still have the ability to get rid of those folks. With respect to a contract, and again, I'll just use the chief. If you folks entered into a brand new contract with him today where he was gonna be the chief of police for 5 years, and then you were gonna review the contract, et cetera, you could still terminate him for cause for certain things under the contract, and there probably are certain statutory things you could fire him for. If you just fired him on a whim, is it possible you could be sued for breach of contract? Yeah, but it's also possible you could. And so I say those things to you just to say that, I guess for me, the concern about these employees down here, who are they? Are they contract? Are they whatever? All of them except the finance officer are already in the employees other than appointive box. And so really the only question you're answering is, do you want to move finance officer to appointive or not appointive? And if you do, you know, however you hired the finance officer going forward would govern. The only thing that would change is now the mayor just can't say you're gone.
Well, actually, I think quite a while back, I'm the one that brought up this to the attention of the people. I do not think it would be right for the mayor to just flat fire somebody and just maybe because they don't like them. But the way it was, that I interpreted what we had before was that the mayor had the ability to do that. So I would not want that to happen without the vote of the entire city council. That's the way I would like to see it proposed. The only way that the mayor could do it, he would have to have the approval. That's my opinion on it.
And so I think what we have with our current personnel policies and the way we do hire or fire here for non-appointed people is about as close as you're gonna get. I think I brought this up at the last meeting, but maybe I didn't. I looked at like 3 or 4 cities that had done this, and there was one city that did it that started with a D, and I can't remember the name of the town, but they passed a resolution that says the mayor can't fire anybody except with a majority vote of the council. And at first I thought, boy, that's pretty fair and reasonable, but when you look at what an appointive officer is in statute, the mayor in our form of government's the only person that can make the call. So I think that ordinance, which is kind of what you're talking about, Mr. Mayor, I don't think that survives any challenge in court, because the statute specifically says mayor only, and court cases have determined that. What the statute doesn't say is that the council and the government does not have the ability to decide who an appointive officer is. It says the opposite. So I think about as close as I can get you is you move the finance officer to a regular employee, and then I think don't our policies say the council's gotta approve a firing anyway for a regular employee? So I think that's about as close as I can get you.
Okay. So basically, having this finance officer verbiage right here in section 2 is really what we're doing with this ordinance.
Yes, you're moving finance officer from an appointed position to an employee other than appointed.
So then that would cover what I'm talking about.
Exactly.
That-
Right.
Okay,
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
okay.
And then the only person that could be executed without trial is me.
I don't remember what's in our, what is in our current, policy manual. Is that what it says, that's majority vote? Or-
Yes. And then there is a list of, a very extensive list of reasons for.
Well, I like this. I think we should be doing this.
I guess, yeah, I don't have a problem with this, I just think maybe we need to look at the policy again and make sure that that's,
That will come to us next meeting, correct?
Yes, and
it will be modified
So it'll-
to,
and I apologize, I can't quote you chapter and verse,
That's-
but there is extensive, there are kind of levels of misconduct, and then there are levels of disciplinary options that are open to kind of the mayor in wearing his executive hat, able to discipline or speak with an employee, and then if there's actual cause for termination, if I remember right, the council has to vote on it.
I think it's a good plan.
And the only other thing I
Like the
would
ordinance.
I would mention is if you're gonna adopt it, it probably needs to be changed to ordinance number 2008-19 dash, I guess it's 1, but I don't know.
Is that right, Pat?
Yes. And so the ordinance change would have to have a first reading, a second reading, and then a publication. So is this written in such a way that this could be a first reading of this ordinance then,
It is,
changing the date?
yeah, I mean, if you change, the number at the top
Okay.
is not a substantive change.
So we can't act on it anyway.
What?
Well, this
First
is the
reading.
first reading, right?
This will be the first reading.
We need a motion to,
And I'm gonna make a motion that we adopt ordinance number 2019-1 as presented. An ordinance amending and/or repealing certain portions of the existing municipal ordinances of the city of Alcester, South Dakota. Code Title I, Chapter 1.01, Municipal Employees, and the subsections contained therein relating to appointive officers. I'll make that motion.
I will second it. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Pleasant Hill Cemetery. There's a committee meeting, Lance, Darla, Linda, January 15th at 6.
We, just got word today that, the first fair board meeting is that night down in Elk Point,
Okay,
which would take Darla out of the mix of that meeting. I did confirm with Larry before the meeting tonight, and that day does work for them, if you want me to reschedule a different date.
It'll be likely, information that night, and, we can't take action anyway as a committee.
finding out, it was my understanding the reason we wanted that meeting was just to find out kind of the duties.
We need to start somewhere.
So it's okay if I'm all right if I go to Fair Board?
You okay, Linda?
Is it, where, will it be here?
Yes.
Where is it at? Okay.
Yes,
All right.
probably in this room.
Yeah, I can make that work.
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Just one thing that I would like to
What's that?
have the committee
Yeah.
figure out. I think we received information that there's about, what, $72,000 in an account? Is, if the city would assume that responsibility, is there any way that could be invested in some kind of a CD or something that would get maybe 2 or 3% interest?
That would be the decision of the council as the CDs are up for renewal.
Because
Is it not an investment now?
I thought they said it was.
it was
It's
now.
in,
I thought they
I
said.
didn't know if the city
Some
could
kind
do
of a
that kind of
vehicle.
stuff.
I don't know.
they have the money in different CDs
Yeah.
that are maturing at different
Different
times.
times.
Didn't Edward Jones get brought up too?
I
Well-
can't remember
I
that.
don't think that was.
It's all locally down in Fairfield. So yes, I mean, if that is the council's wishes, as the money matures. There are bylaws already in place for the cemetery, and I did not see it in the bylaws that I have. Larry says there is some bylaws that say how much money needs to be kept in as perpetual care. I've not seen that. The
Sure.
bylaws I have are from the late 1800s.
Basically to remain liquid, is that what you're saying, rather than to,
No, there's some rules that say you cannot touch that money.
I see.
So it's supposed to stay, I'm sure you could take the interest portion out, but X
Right.
number needs to stay in all the time
Understood.
as perpetual care. So,
Well, there's questions that I have, what kind of duties, how much time is this gonna take? Pat, Wanda,
All of us?
Yeah.
I mean, everybody.
what's gonna fall on us?
Yeah.
You know, is their board gonna stay in place for a few years to, because they're used to doing these and running this entity.
That's one of the reasons why we talked about asking them to maintain a portion of their board
Yeah.
with us. Give us a little, I don't know, experience for a while. Maybe forever. I don't know, maybe they wouldn't have a problem as long as they didn't have this other responsibility, you know? I
Well,
think the big thing is, it's no longer going to be, you don't have to go through all the hoops
Yeah.
for tax purposes or non-taxable purposes.
Because some person's gonna have to understand the maps and spot
I know.
and do this work. So it's gonna take responsibility and it's gonna
Absolutely.
take somebody's
Is it
time.
perpetual care? Is that how you're organized? So that's a minimum of 20% of your receipts for plots, child space, crypts. Basically, 20% of whatever you take in has to stay, shall be set aside in the principal fund to continue operating, not less than the following amounts. And no amount of the principal may be withdrawn or transferred out of the principal fund. So whatever you take in to be a perpetual cemetery,
Well, I think we meet with them, we ask our questions, and anything Sam can tell us that we need to ask, we'll come back with information.
That was good.
January 15th, 6 PM, huh?
Number 13, nuisance property discussion. I still occasionally have people come up to me and asking how come we can't get some of these properties cleaned up. To me, I don't think we've been aggressive enough. We do have a code enforcement officer, and my opinion is he isn't aggressive enough. He comes and looks at stuff, but I don't know. Lance, you've had people come to you too?
Yeah, it's just, he doesn't do anything. He cites discrepancies, sends a letter, and if they pick up one twig or make a small amount, nothing ever gets done, never gets finished.
Isn't it really the ordinance that, I mean, if there's an infraction of an ordinance, and once that enforcement officer writes that letter, then we have the luxury of going to Chief Christie and saying, Chief Christie, there's definitely an ordinance infraction here. Let's make them aware of the fact that they've got an infraction. I mean, that's what ordinances are all about. So, somewhere there has to be an ordinance about nuisance properties.
There is an ordinance
There
on
is.
nuisance properties, but it has been Jeff's procedure that if some work is done, it's making progress.
So then really, our only issue is, we have not told him what our,
Oh, yes, we did. The last meeting when he was here, we told him we didn't wanna,
then we tell him, you got two choices, either you modify your behavior, or we're gonna modify you and become,
cause he
take someone
sat
else.
right back
I mean-
there and
I mean,
he explained to us how tough he could be on these, but he's doing nothing.
well, so, can we get him in here again and talk to him? And we'll just say, Lance, we'll just tell him. I mean, we got a number of people that are complaining, just like the cats, we're gonna do something about it.
Well, we
We're gonna
have
do
to do
something
something
about this,
about
too.
it because it affects everybody in town's property
Absolutely.
values. When we have nuisance properties that look like crap,
Yeah,
we definitely need to get them cleaned up and fixed up and make this town look right.
so let's do it. Let's not talk about it again, let's just do it.
So how long should it take to get
Yeah.
a non-licensed derelict vehicle out of somebody's yard? Give them 30 days?
It's all spelled out in there, isn't it?
We gave them 7.
7 days?
Mhm. And actually, the vehicle thing is probably not the issue, because when Chief Christie did the vehicle letters, I think all of them responded, and they were removed. The issue that we have is the other types of nuisance issues, like, the metal junk down here, the Jurgensen property.
The dumpster on West 4th Street?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
I've got a property right behind me, there's mattresses laying in the backyard and have been there for months through the rain, snow, everything. And to me, that just harbors insects and varmints and everything else, and that kind of stuff we don't need. We need that cleaned up. And it's not just one property, there's a lot of them. If you drive around town, up and down the alleys and really look, you'll see what I'm talking about.
Well, I would suggest that we get our code enforcement officer here, not next month, but ASAP. And explain to him, I mean, he's got these recorded.
Yeah.
Let's get this done.
Absolutely.
Not next week, tomorrow, as soon as we can get a hold of this guy and get him back here. This has gone on long enough. I've been here 5 years now, just about, and that's why I got on. And nothing happens.
When they asked me to be mayor, they said, why do you want to be mayor? And this has been 4.5 years ago. And I said, because one of the reasons, when you look around town, there's a lot of stuff that, properties that, in it, we're not asking people to spend a whole lot of money on their property, just clean it up. And that's one of the reasons that I did take this job to start with. And I feel like I failed at it because we're not making any progress. In fact, some places it's getting worse. Okay, can we get him back here soon? We'll figure a time and we'll get
Wanna have a special meeting?
2 or
Is that
3 of
what
us
you wanna
in
do? Or you
here
wanna
with
just
us.
do it?
Well, we don't need everybody there.
We just get 2 or 3 of us in here and tell him.
I think the feeling is mutual that we get some action going. 2 or 3 of us meet with him and explain to him that we're done waiting.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay,
let's move.
Public safety, does that fall under that group?
It can if you want it, I mean, the chief of police is the
I mean,
one
I'm
that I
just-
work with on that.
There are some instances where the cleanup is gonna require Jeff's presence, I believe.
So why don't we just do that? The
Public
public
safety
safety
meeting.
gets together with him.
And then it's just a committee
All we
meeting.
gotta do is find out when he's gonna be available and we'll just, whoever can, will.
Okay,
I'll make time.
Yeah, well,
and I'll share Ken too, if you need me there, I'll certainly be there. Okay, water, wastewater updates, Dale Pearson, no, Lonnie, you it?
Don't really have much going on there, so we could probably move on to street.
Okay.
Um,
Street updates, you got anything on the street?
I don't really have any street updates. Go to B, sand truck surplus, did we get our final appraisal?
No, I have 2 of the appraisals and still waiting on the 3rd.
Me? Well, I did it, didn't I?
You did yours,
All right.
yep. I just have Van Larsen that needs to go look at it, so I'm hoping to get him up there.
he's aware that he needs to do that?
Yes.
Okay.
And then it's gonna be auctioned?
Yes, it just depends on his appraisal.
Okay.
At price tag, so.
Do we have a timeline on how long he has to do that before we bring in our alternate?
I'm hoping to do it this week.
I'll try to remember to talk to him tomorrow.
Lance, did you find out when you were gonna talk to,
Rankin?
Yeah,
I have discussed it with him. Anytime it's available, he's ready to, he's around most weekends, so
okay,
just be a matter of a day or so to light a fire under him.
okay.
Are we okay to move forward with that, if that comes in under?
Yeah, we already decided that, so good to go.
So we'll just get that appraisal and move forward at that point. Once Dale gets back this week, we'll get the tank off of there. Alright, C, asphalt zipper.
It's in their packets.
Okay. Something that I've been looking into about, helping fix our roads rather than just keep putting Band-Aids on them. Kind of fell into it last year when we did a little bit of cold planing before we asphalted, and we didn't really realize what we had done until afterwards, but that process, you grind up the asphalt plus some of the base layer underneath and it mixes it all together. And we really didn't even pack it, but that stuff sat for probably a month or 2 before we went back and asphalted those areas. And I went in to dig it out, and I couldn't dig it out. It was just as hard as asphalt. And basically what this process does is it grinds up your bad portions of asphalt that are alligator, potholed. We could do a whole street, basically, with that machine. They're saying somewhere in the 2-hour range, we could do a whole block, completely grind it up, reshape it, pack it, water it, all that stuff, and leave it set, and then just chip seal right over it. So, without getting into it too deep, because it's kind of a, you need to see it kind of a process. There's some information online, a lot of videos. I think, Lance, you maybe looked at some of these?
I never did find one. I guess I went to some websites, but I never did find this machine.
Okay. If you go to the Asphalt Zipper site, they have a ton of videos.
That's the name of the website?
It should be on the Asphalt Zipper one, maybe?
Yep, www.asphaltzipper.com, very back page.
And I'm not real sure on the Roadhog how many videos they have, but YouTube has a lot on them.
And on the very back page, roadhog-inc.com.
Asphalt Zipper has a lot of testimonials from people throughout the country that have used this process. It's almost a little hard to believe until you see it and see them do it. It seems almost too good to be true, but it works, and we did it last year and we didn't know it. So, but the process is called full depth reclamation. If you wanna researched that also. There's a lot of literature out there, there's a lot of different ways to do it. Some add stabilization in there, Portland concrete or cement. Some use calcium chloride, lime, there's all kinds of ways. And then you can also just do it without it. Just, that's if your material's right, which we kind of figured out, our material must be pretty good for as hard as it got. But with this process, we can, you know, we have some streets, I actually measured a few today to see what our slope, our cross slope was. And one of them was 10%, and one was 6.5%, whereas we should be in like a 2 to 3% cross slope.
So what you're talking, you got too much
We've
Crown,
got-
way big crown.
We have way too much layers and layers and layers of chip seal on, basically.
Why does the chip seal get thicker in the middle than on the end?
The only way I can answer that is just by the way I've thought about it. Most cars don't drive right in the middle. They drive on the side. So they'll pack that down or they'll throw the rock off, or the middle section doesn't get packed and destroyed like the sides will. And then we've got so much cross slope that it actually shoves that stuff. So you're losing it because you're loosening it. So if we got our roads back to a better cross slope, like not every road's bad. For instance, right up here, everybody knows 3rd Street's terrible. We could remove that whole road, grind it up, blade it, get it set back, get it the right cross slope, and we'd get pretty well off. We'd probably consider maybe doing a little stabilization on that one, just because of the amount of water we know goes through there. But then up at my house, it's actually a 10% slope, which would be really hard to change because the curb's so much lower on one side. But we could at least get that, how it kind of goes, it's hard to explain. It kind of goes flat and then just really steep drops. We could make that a little more
Taper,
gradual.
yeah.
Because we don't have to do full depth reclamation with that. We could actually mill too. We could just take an inch off if we wanted.
So it looks to me like they've got them mounted on front end loaders.
Yes.
And, I mean, it's obvious from that one picture, they got a tire that's low, but this must be one heavy piece of equipment.
We actually went to Murphy in Sioux City, Murphy Tractor, and they put one on a high lift loader, the same size as ours, and I kind of rode around a lot with it to get an idea.
Yeah.
And, yeah, it's heavy. You aren't gonna.
Is it ungainly? I mean, when you moved, you got articulated steering on that thing and you're
If you turn too sharp too fast, yeah, you could.
gonna be in trouble.
You get a little wobbly.
Yeah.
The one I lifted down there was a 2008 model, a used model. We're considering possibly renting that this year, try it out. That one's 1,000 pounds more than a brand new machine comes. So 1,000 pounds would make a lot. And being a high lift loader, it was out there a little farther than ours would be.
Yeah.
You do have the opportunity to rent one,
Yes. So this
The only
thing
problem
actually,
with, that's the only company I found that will rent one, and that's not even guaranteed, because somebody might come in and buy that machine before we can rent it.
so this cuts off what's there and then recycles it?
Yeah.
The material that's already there, so we wouldn't, if you did this, then you wouldn't have to get new chip seal to put onto it?
We would still have to chip seal it, because that's your sealer, basically, on top. But with this, we re-stabilize what's underneath, and as long as what's underneath is stable, we shouldn't have these big cracking issues and potholes. And, you know, some of that's the cross slope, we get too much pressure one way with a truck, you know, that garbage truck doesn't help us, but the way he's leaning doesn't help us either, so.
When you talk
lean
about
a little less.
When you talk about the extra stabilization that might be necessary, say on 3rd Street or wherever,
Yep.
are you talking about just some oil added to the existing mix?
We can actually the easiest way for us to do it would be, either calcium chloride or Portland cement, where they just unload it right out of the back of the truck. We just sway it back and forth, and then you actually regrind it all together again, pack it.
Water,
Yeah, and if it's a slurry Portland cement, you wouldn't even need water probably. But if you
That's
get
cool.
it dry, which we probably wouldn't do dry because of the dust factor. But the other option is, I figured out to do 3 blocks, if we were doing a whole block, 3 blocks of calcium chloride would be like $5,000. So,
And just for instance, the zipper would cost you, do you know how much to rent one?
I believe it was,
$3,600 plus you have to buy 104 teeth.
and the teeth were $300 or $400.
For the full set you're talking about?
Yeah,
How long do you rent it for?
A
that's
week,
1 week.
That's what, $3,600?
correct?
Oh, that's for a whole week?
That's a week.
But you could accomplish.
And how much can you get done in
A
a
lot.
week's time then?
Well,
If the
it's
weather
all-
was good.
if it's only a couple hours a block, if it's only a couple hours a
Yeah.
block, you can get a lot done in a week's time.
There's a learning curve, and we can't get too, we have to repack the stuff before we can keep moving.
Absolutely.
So there's another process after we go through that we still have, I know it's 10,000 a month to rent it, so it's kinda one of them
So, devil's advocate here,
deals.
how much does it cost to buy one?
Yeah. Well, this is why we were gonna actually create a committee, so it wasn't such a shock, but you guys seem interested, so let's talk about it. What was the price tag?
The used one from Murphy is 82,000.
Well, that's,
We
I
don't
mean,
have
it's
any-
$10,000 a month.
But we don't have anything in the budget this year.
No,
We
I
got-
realize that, but I'm just saying, I was shocked that it was that low
And
when
a
it's
brand,
$10,000 a month to rent.
a brand new one
Whose
is
teeth on
about
this thing, how long did it last?
147,000.
Oh, I
Almost
guess,
twice as
to
much.
replace it every month, it would be.
So, it's obvious, Lonnie, that we're pipe dreaming here, but I think we need to have our eyes wide open, not,
The reason I brought this up is, we need to think about fixing streets instead of
I agree.
Band-Aiding.
Band-Aids are not helping,
No.
they're hurting.
And I don't foresee in our near future putting blocks and blocks of asphalt in. So,
Well, man, I'm in favor of seeing this thing do its job.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
that's kinda what I was thinking, like we talked and we thought, if we rent it, and then you guys can see what it's actually doing. And, there will be spots where we might get thin asphalt, get into wet clay quick. And then, we'll have to, if they're small enough, we'll just get bags of Portland cement and throw in there.
Yeah.
So,
But you're talking about the Portland cement, you're just reinforcing the reclaimed material that you're gonna create
yes.
with this machine.
Yep, but for the most part, I think, especially where our trouble parts are on this side, there's so much layers there that we'll have a very good base, so.
That crown actually will probably turn out to be an ally. I mean, because of the fact that you're gonna be able to move a little bit of that out.
And we'll actually be able to take some of it out,
Oh, yeah.
and we can reuse all that in spots that are thin with asphalt and mix it in, or we can put it in alleys. That's the
That'd be a
other,
wonderful thing.
that's the other thing, that thing will grind up a gravel road like nothing and bring all that gravel, the thing will go 12 inches deep, so.
I do encourage you to watch the videos. The best videos I saw were on asphalt zippers. But it is amazing how
Yeah.
it just takes a regular asphalt road
This thing has
and
a remote.
as it
and
drives
a ground
over,
road.
it just completely
So
crushes it
we just go
to
right up
small
to it.
particles.
Around it. And use our skid
Well,
steer
you'll
to take
eliminate
away
the
from
layering
Mm-hmm.
Right.
and make it into one solid unit or.
One solid
Yeah.
surface.
Best
Yeah.
part about it is you're not actually worrying about putting down a brand new mat. So if you have a water leak 2 years from now on the same street, you're not tearing up a brand new 6-inch mat or a 4-inch mat that you just spent thousands of dollars on.
Well, let's do it.
I'd like to see it work. I don't think we need another thing like the patcher sitting around. We tried for a while and
Yeah.
But yeah, talk to them, see if you can get it scheduled for a hot day or a hot week. I suppose that's ideal, isn't it?
Well, it would, wouldn't it?
Yeah, well, not necessarily, because if the asphalt's hot, it's still stickier, so it doesn't really matter on temperature. You know, eventually, if we were to buy one, say down the road, we'd be using it right now. When we have potholes pop up, we'd go out, just grind up that little section, pack it back in there, and then we'd be good to go. But, yeah, I haven't really thought too hard on what dates I'm looking at, because I don't wanna do it too far ahead of when they come, if we end up, say, doing these 2 blocks all the way up here. Because we don't really want those sitting for a month before they come, because then they'll be like a gravel road, but packed, and they'll have the opportunity to start rutting, and then we'll have to reblade and all that stuff.
Now, we own that little packer,
The wheel packer,
that little roller, that was just a rental unit too that I saw
the
here.
one that was in the park, that was a rental.
Yeah. The wheel packer is that the one that goes
The
down?
tractor pull.
Yeah.
I mean, ideally, if we were to do a full road, we'd probably want to rent a pad-foot packer, and then pack it after we've got water incorporated into it, and then blade it, and then our wheel packer should get it smooth enough that it would be good to chip seal right over it, so.
Okay, sounds good.
So do we really want a committee meeting then, or it's just?
I think you have a consensus to go right ahead and do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we'll just
See what that thing can
Rent
do.
for a week, buy the
Yeah.
See what it looks like.
Okay. You got anything else, Lonnie?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Police chief, what do you got?
Yeah, I actually don't, and I know it says stats, but I don't. This month, this week is the transition for our new software. Thursday, we're getting the software that the county runs on and the dispatch runs on, so. Our lease, or so to say, was up with report exec last month, so. So stats wise, I don't have anything for you. December was steady. Just really looking forward to getting into that new software. It's gonna speed our process up a ton. We're working on a master inventory right now. Just getting a good inventory done so we can be accountable for everything, I guess. The county's, with the approval of or Sheriff Lamoller's, county's gonna be hosting a couple of trainings, and it's gonna work great for us to piggyback with some of the deputies. Dan was great in opening that up for us, and then actually the head dispatcher, Sarah Beatty down there, is opening up some training for us as well to piggyback with those guys, so it's gonna work out great. We're gonna get some of the necessary certifications that we need every year or every 2 years. We're gonna be able to piggyback with the county, get those knocked out. It'll require both of us to be down in Elk Point for 4 hours at a time, but, we'll be back in 10 minutes if we need to.
Whoa!
That was on the steering wheel, man.
Yeah. We did have one applicant for our part-time position that we opened up after last month's meeting. I have not interviewed him yet, but we did have an applicant, so.
Certified officer?
No, well, in Iowa, not certified in South Dakota.
But they would qualify for reciprocity, being
Yeah.
already a certified officer,
Right.
just in another state.
We could, kind of put the cart before the horse, but in theory, if it worked out for him, we could sponsor him for 1 week, and he would go to Peter, and he'd be certified within 1 week instead of however long. So it could pan out to be something good for us. So I gotta set up an interview with him and meet him and such, so. Other than that, I really don't have a lot.
Okay, we may as
Mr. Mayor, if I may, have you considered anything as far as cameras or security for specifically the
Yeah,
locker?
for a new security system.
Yeah.
Yeah, working with a couple of quotes that are supposed to be coming in. One of them was supposed to be in today, but yeah, I'd like to maybe bring those quotes to Public Safety Committee or something like that, and then maybe dive through them and see what you guys think are different options. And what he's talking about is basically just upgrading our security system here at the PD and the office. So I'll be getting that stuff to Public Safety, and maybe we can sneak it into the 2019 PD budget here.
Upgrading that would be a good idea.
Yeah, working with Pat a little bit on that too, so.
Okay. Golf course update, David.
Much is happening out there.
Snow's melting, huh?
They're not on
Our
golf?
spring is still pumping 2.5 inches of continuous water into the pond. So it's been full for the last 6 months. This is the time of the year when I get together with Landon and we order our filters, our sprinkler parts, fertilizer, that kind of stuff, chemicals, so.
Okay.
Other than that, not much is going on.
Okay. Pat, Finance Office. Updates. Warrants. Motion to approve December warrants.
Everybody get a chance to review theirs? I would make a motion that we approve the December warrants.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Resolution for City of Alcester 2019, resolution fees.
So I made 2 changes, since our last meeting. On page 3 of the City Hall offices, I put staff time, and I said quoted after 1 hour labor. If you want some different verbiage, just have to let me know there. And the other change is, the motion from last meeting, if golf dues are paid prior to May 15th, they will be at last year's rate. Otherwise, after May 15th, they will be a 5% increase. And the other change is on the pool fees. We increased the family pass by $5 and the private lessons to $50. Are there any changes that you would like?
On the City Hall staff time, quoted after 1 hour of labor. How
No.
much, what's,
I didn't know how to say it because, if I do a job, it would be different than if Wanda did the job. So I didn't know how, so I'm open to suggestions if you would like something different.
First hour free at any additional time at such and such rate.
But I can't give an exact rate.
You can't.
That's the problem, that's why she said quoted.
Oh. Wanda at one rate, Pat at another rate.
Exactly, and
like
somebody
you
else
both
that
of
might
them?
know.
Yeah.
Or if you hired temp
Well-
to come in and do it.
Yeah, what if you had somebody that isn't
Yeah.
already
Like an
on the,
intern.
or, yeah, an intern or somebody? I mean, it could be relatively inexpensive, but the hour is dictated, that's mandated, so it's the after that hour that counts.
Is this 1 hour for each project or 1 hour per year or what?
per person or per citizen?
I take it as per project.
Per request, right?
It would be in the vein of an open records request, if it's reasonably gonna take the employee more than an hour, you can charge them essentially what it costs us, so you get the first hour free under the statute. Anything under an hour is free, aside from copying charges.
Well, are we covered with that statement, quoted after 1 hour of labor, or?
I think so.
Would you word it differently?
You could, if you wanted to add,
Accrued time rate or
I
accrued
mean,
rate?
if you wanted to add additional amplifying language, a way to concisely basically say you pay Pat's hourly rate plus, what else is all in there from that
It's all
hearing
benefits.
examiner's opinion?
It was all the benefits. that
Benefits, come out to what, $30 and,
were $30 and 50 cents, something like that. Hang on.
I mean, you could say hourly wage plus benefits of employee, you know, because, and I think that we don't have to like spell it out for them so that they totally understand it. I mean, quoted after 1 hour is sufficient so long as, and I know Pat knows how to do it, you explain to the person, and anytime we charge staff time anyway, we're required to tell them up front, here's what we think it's gonna cost estimate, and here's how we got it, so, you know, they know what they're getting into, so I think quoted after 1 hour of labor is.
Sufficient.
Yeah,
$30.40.
34.
On the shoveling sidewalks, do we report that? Or does the citizens need to report that? The fine for not shoveling your snow?
The citizens would report it, or the police department would see it in their driver homes.
I don't think anybody in my neighborhood scoops but me. There isn't,
Well, then the sidewalk doesn't go all the way through, and
But-
you're black.
just south of me, she has never scooped. Never, since she's moved in.
She's
So,
not there
I mean,
much.
that's why I walk in the street. It's because there's never any sidewalks scooped.
Yeah, that's what we do too.
Yeah. We don't have a lot of sidewalks either.
No, but, and then they're not very good, but, you know, in my neighborhood, you know, we just know that they're not gonna scoop them. So, we've scooped them a few times, but, you know, you don't even get a thank you, so we just quit doing it.
And I know you have folks in your neighborhood that go around and scoop and clean driveways just out of the goodness of their hearts.
Right.
Including yourself, huh?
Yeah, no.
Well, if the language in there is good enough on the staff time, I would make a motion to approve the City of Alcester 2019 resolution of fees.
I would second that.
Here we have a motion and a second, any more discussion?
Okay, we have fines for animals and impounding animals.
That may change.
That may change.
I was actually gonna bring that up, but
We'll
we
have-
can't change that now, so.
We don't have anything, okay.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. 2019 municipal election information.
Well, it could be a busy year for elections. The mayor's term is up. Linda was appointed, so her term will be up. Dan took a petition out, but, so his term is up. And Darla was appointed, and so her term.
And is that right down the list there, so it's Mayor, Linda, Ward 1,
Yep.
me, Ward 2, and Darla, Ward 3.
Correct.
Thank you.
So the first date to take out a petition is the end of this month, January 25th. And the day to return is February 22nd by 5 o'clock. Petitions can be picked up in our office or in Union County.
February what?
22nd.
Number of signatures?
Excuse me?
Number of signatures?
I would say to be safe, greater than 10, 15 would be better.
That app is no longer available.
No,
Apparently $10,000 was just too much for the state budget, so they,
there was a nice app that you could put on your phone, and while you were sitting with people, you could look it right up to see if they were a registered voter or if it was correct, if they were in the right district. So that is the reason for getting more than 10
Yeah.
signatures, is in case some people are not registered voters or they're not registered in that correct ward. So. And the election date is April 9th. So if we end up having one.
Okay. 2019 salaries, motion to enter executive session pursuant to SDCL 1-25-2-1 personnel.
I'll make a motion to enter into executive session pursuant to SDCL 1-25-2-1 personnel.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We're in executive session at 7:22.
Did anybody not get one of these? Because I got two.
7:22.
Started at 7:22, out at 7:26. Okay, motion to approve 2019 salaries.
Now, I'm not exactly sure what our pool staff will be. I left Brianna on there. She did tell us at the end of last season that she was about 90% sure that she'll be doing either an internship or something more related to her field, so she's probably not coming back. We did have some people express being co-managers again, but we are going to approach Sam and see if he wants that job before we go to the next. But, so, instead of maybe identifying a individual, maybe identify the position as pool manager or first year WSI, second year WSI, third year WSI.
Really, a lot of that is dependent. You never know with pool people.
I do
So,
not know.
Yeah, all we can do is assume these numbers right now and then act accordingly when the other individuals are hired. I would say in the interest of fairness for Dee Cole that we do increase her 2019 pay. And if calculations are correct, it would change, I guess, 43 cents an hour, up to $14.64.
I don't think we need to have Joni Shemp on our list for golf clubhouse attendant. She has told me more than once that she really likes her job at the
Coffee shop.
Daily Dose. Not interested in working there. And I don't know about Zach. He's probably gonna have to be doing an internship too, or maybe doing something, so I'll get in touch with you, but I haven't done that yet.
Okay. So on the, would you like to hold off on the golf and lifeguards until we know for certain?
Well, we can amend anything at any time, can't we?
Yeah, if Zach isn't coming back, then we'll have to hire someone different at a different salary.
Okay.
So let's leave, let's leave him on there, but Tony Shamp should be taken off.
Okay.
We can just approve it as, basically as the budget that we've already approved
Yeah.
dictates, but, I mean, obviously, if somebody's not here, they're not gonna get paid that amount, so. Well, I don't know, I would make a motion to approve the 2019 salaries as stated, except for the change to D. Cole's salary. And removing Joni Shemp and Kenneth Johnson from the list.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. FEMA map, flood maps.
So there is going to be an open house down in Larsen City on Tuesday, January 29th. And by January 10th, they should have an updated preliminary map. And that's where the email that I sent you, or even this copy here, you can go to this link, and if you go back to your email, this is actually a valid hyperlink, so you can click on it and it will take you.
Have you clicked on that, Pat?
I have not.
Okay, you come up with, when that's downloaded, you come up with about 75 files that have no names that are recognizable.
Really?
So there's no association on his computer anyway, so you would think they'd be PDFs, I don't know why they.
No, there isn't a PDF, there isn't a DOC, there's,
What about the link up here for self-click?
I did not go to that one,
Okay.
but I figured this data, FEMA data thing was probably the one.
Well, in the email that I got, that is where they were suggesting that we go, was the FEMA data.
So on January 10th, we should know, or at that meeting, we should find out if
Yes.
there's any changes to Alcester's
Correct.
floodplain.
And I did get it, the verbiage that came along with this email is that January 10th date is still an active date. I mean, they are feeling they will have all the information done by then, so. I will see if I can email him and get a better, file that needs to be selected for output.
Okay. You guys got any more on the FEMA? None? Okay, special projects.
Our audit is still not done. I'm working with Terry. There's a few adjusting entries that need to be done. And we did get all 4 of our computers upgraded. So, we'll hold on to our current machines for a little over a month, just to make sure we got all the files that we want off, and then we'll go from there and.
One of them might be transferred to the golf course.
Yes, yes.
But at least we won't have to crank that one anymore.
What is your intent to do with the other ones then?
We can surplus them and do with what you want.
Well, maybe talk to Dee. I mean, I don't know whether,
Dee's gonna be buying new computers, so she'll have some to surplus too.
Does the street department need one? Or is theirs pretty decent?
I was gonna suggest that Lonnie get a new one next year. His is 1 year newer than our old ones, but, it's in a rougher environment up there. Dirty,
dirty, yeah.
so. He hasn't complained about his at all up there, but,
The new ones came with Windows 10, was it Pro? Is it
yeah,
the Pro operating system?
yeah.
What did the old ones have, 7?
3 of them have 10, 1 has 7. So, we are all Google Chrome users though, and fortunately Windows 10 and Chrome don't get
I
along.
don't.
And it's very sad because we love Chrome. So, that's been a little bit of a heartache.
Firefox is the,
Well, I'm using Edge,
you are.
I'm trying
Yeah,
to
see,
love it.
I am too. And I
Is it
I struggle with
Microsoft
that.
Edge?
Yeah.
but I'm not loving it yet.
No,
Is
no,
that's what comes with 10?
yeah.
Internet Explorer and Edge both come with 10, but we are all Chrome users and we got used to Chrome and unfortunately they don't get along. So that's been a little situation.
Okay. Reminders and updates. Dog license deadline, January 31st, 2019. Fair board update.
Well, we'll have more after she said.
Okay. HRC update.
Well, we've got 2 terms that we're going to need to fill positions. Obviously, the mayor of the city council, also the president of the HRC, his term is up and he has opted not to accept another term, so we're looking for someone to replace that individual. And unfortunately, Vernon Johnson passed away this last weekend. No, excuse me, the weekend before that.
Yeah.
January 2nd.
Yeah. And he was the vice president. Now, one of the things that this does is, currently we don't have a president, and because of that, every check that is written has to be signed by myself, the treasurer, and the president. So, the other 2 members and I have just had a little bit of dialogue back and forth via email, trying to set up a date for a meeting. One of the suggestions that I heard one of them make was, we maybe want to make this so that the treasurer, the president, the treasurer, and the president or the secretary could be on the signature card. So there would be 3 individuals that would be able to sign, one of which has to be the treasurer. Well, the treasurer has to sign because they're the individuals that keep track of the books, so. But it would be nice to have the flexibility of having either or. So we're gonna consider that as something in our meeting.
Could you have the secretary as, listed as the interim?
That's a good,
President?
that's a good question. I think it all depends on what the bylaws say for the HRC.
Yeah.
But one of the things that Jared had done when Kama had vacated, was he used cashier's checks in the interim. The cashier's check does the same thing. It still forces another entity to be involved in the creation of the check. So a cashier's check, I mean, I would have to then approve that cashier's check, but the bank is the other entity. So I couldn't just say, yeah, I want to write for my golf membership, you know, so. So there are ways of getting around it right now, but
Have you guys set up a meeting where you get
not yet.
together and get this
The
straight?
problem is that one of the members had some problems over the next couple of weeks, but he's too busy, so we're going to though.
Okay.
Do you have a a list of people or need a list of people to ask?
I would love a list of people. I don't have a list of people. You know, I've thought of a number of people, but I don't, I guess I wanna see what are the prerequisites? Anybody that's breathing?
They have to live within 10 miles of Alcester.
Okay. So they don't have to be property owners, they don't have to be, they just have to be
I will
within,
check on the property owners, I'm not sure of that off the top of my head. But
Okay.
I'm gonna say no, because Kamo, when she was living in town, she was a renter. So,
we'll research that. If anybody's got any ideas, if anybody thinks that they would like to be involved, or has a friend, spouse, whatever that would like to be involved, please let us know.
I'll ask Derek, I think I already told him once to do it, but he didn't seem thrilled about it. He's not a very outgoing, put me in a group and make me do stuff kind of guy, so.
It's not a real
I understand
exhaustive
that.
thing, so.
I pitched the idea to him, he just kind of froze, and I took that as a no.
So you have 3 or 4 meetings
Yeah,
a year.
2 or 3 a year is all they have.
Yeah. Typically 2, but
Yeah.
of course there's more because something comes up.
Okay. Community building update.
The committee has not met during the holidays,
Okay.
so I think we'll be meeting soon.
Okay. Updating volunteer roster for workman's comp. Is anything, addition to Corey and to fire department.
Well, I'll make a motion to add Corey Heesh to the fire department.
I'll second it.
Have any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Executive session if needed. Anybody need it? No? Good. Now, can we get a motion to adjourn the city council at 7:41?
I will move that we adjourn at 7:41 PM.
I'll second.
That was quick. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.
Good job, Mr. Mayor.
Yes,
Well
you're
done.
very good. Here, you take that, I'll take these, and I'm gonna take these.
There you go.
Is a check in here? Nice, man.
I hesitate to even say this, but one of the things that was brought up concerning the HRC was a desire to have female component in parentheses involved. So,
She's not okay.
again, I don't wanna be sexist, but I think it would be a good idea. So, I'm not saying we got it, I'm not saying we don't have it, I'm not saying we shouldn't, I'm saying
I should be grouping.
so.
Should be in my little bag.
You talk
Keep that in mind.
Does the public safety, do we wanna set up a meeting to talk to Chief Christie about the issues that you addressed?
And or to
And/or set up a meeting
To meet
about.
with the code enforcement officer.
Yeah, I will.